Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar entitled Discover Funding and Learning Opportunities with Arts Midwest. My name is Christy Farnbaugh, and I'm the Innovation and Engagement Director for the Ohio Arts Council. Part of my job is to plan and facilitate professional learning opportunities for the field. Webinars like this one today are being offered because constituents tell us they'd like to learn ways to do their work more efficiently and effectively. We have more than 60 people registered for today's session, so this is clearly a topic that we're all interested in learning more about. Before I introduce today's presenters, a few technical details are necessary. First, everyone on the line is muted or in listen-only mode. This will help us cut down on feedback during today's presentation. We'll use the question box in your control panel to send questions for Christy and Brian. I'll monitor those and facilitate question and answer at a midpoint and then again at the end, so feel free to type in your questions. We'll take a few polls at the beginning to give our presenters some insight about who's on the call and your level of experience, so please provide your feedback accordingly. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted with all of our previous webinar recordings on the Ohio Arts Council's YouTube channel in a few days. We're pretty excited about that channel. It's new, and so you can go out there and view any of our past webinars. And I'll notify you when this one is posted. And after today's webinar, you'll receive a link to a brief survey via email. Please take 5 minutes and give us your feedback about today's presentation. Your input will help us design more meaningful professional development opportunities in the future. And now I'd like to introduce our presenters. Christy Dickinson is a Senior Program Director at Arts Midwest, where she develops policies, guidelines, and efficient procedures for Arts Midwest grant programs, including the Presenting and Touring Fund opportunity, which you're going to hear about, the Arts Midwest Touring Fund, and Shakespeare in American Communities, which is in partnership with the National Endowment for the Arts. And Brian Hollis is Program Manager at Arts Midwest, where he manages professional development and communications for the Arts Midwest Conference, which you're also going to hear about, the preeminent booking and education conference in the Midwest performing arts industry. Previously, Brian worked in the independent departments in the development departments at American Ballet Theater and the Film Society of Lincoln Center in New York. And with that, I offer my thanks to Christy and Brian for being with us here today, and I'm pleased to turn the presentation over to them.
Well, hello and welcome, everyone. This is Christy from Arts Midwest, and Brian and I are very glad to have you on the call today. And we're just going to kind of go through some basic information about Arts Midwest, and then we'll dive right into two of our programs. Arts Midwest promotes creativity, nurtures cultural leadership, and engages people in meaningful arts experiences, bringing vitality to Midwest communities, enriching people's lives. Arts Midwest is one of 6 regional arts organizations in the United States. We are headquartered in Minneapolis and serve audiences in the 9 states of the Midwest, as you see on this map. Our history spans more than 30 years. Our current portfolio of programs includes literary arts and leadership development in performing arts initiatives that provide opportunities for communities large and small to engage in arts and culture. Today we will be discussing 2 of our programs, the Arts Midwest Touring Fund and Arts Midwest Conference. We have a few polling questions, as Christy mentioned, to get an idea of who is joining us on today's call. So we have 4 of those that she will pop up for us here, and please answer those, and the polls are now open.
Yeah, here's your first question. Great, just a couple more seconds. We're almost to 80%. Those last votes in. Great, I'm going to close the poll and show you the results. Can you see those, Christy and Brian?
We are trying to look at those. Hold on.
So it's about even, actually. 36% have over 5 years presenting experience, and 36% have under 5 years experience.
Great.
Few visual arts presenters, and 12% are professional performing artists.
Great, fantastic.
All right, let's go to the question number 2. For organizations, we want a little bit more about your audience size. Another couple seconds. All right, we're going to close this poll and show you the results. So about 43% are small presenters, fewer than 250. 13% are between 250 and 500. 30% are 500 to 1,000. And 13% are more than 1,000.
Great, wonderful.
All right. Question number 3. This is an easy one. Yes, no, or oops, not sure. Don't know. That's supposed to be not sure. Whoops. Great. Votes are in. We're going to close this one. And the results are 19% yes, 74% no, and 7% are not sure. And last question, again, this is also an easy one. Conference attendance. All right, another second. There we go, and results. Oh, there you go, Brian. 11% yes, 75% no, and 14% not sure. So there's a lot of fresh new conference potential attendees on this call.
I love it. It's great.
All right.
Well, thank you, everyone, for taking those poll questions. That gives us a little bit of an idea of who we have on the call to kind of gauge some of our conversation here today. I'm going to start off to discuss the Arts Midwest Touring Fund. I'm glad to share with you this funding opportunity for nonprofit organizations who engage professional performing artists in their community. I know we have 12% of the people on the line who are also artists. I will tell you that this is specifically for organizations to apply for, but you are our best advocates for the Touring Fund as well. And so we encourage you to know more about it so that you can let the organizations you may travel to outside of the state of Ohio to let them know about this funding opportunity that might be available to them. The program's goal is to encourage performing arts touring in the Midwest. This financial support derives from the National Endowment for the Arts. Applying to the fund, our application deadline is coming up on April 25th for engagements occurring between July 1st, 2017 and June 30th of 2018. Organization eligibility requirements, we'll just kind of go through these with you. Our requirements are that you be a nonprofit 501c3 organization or unit of state or local government. You contract with a professional performing artist or ensemble, have a DUNS number and active registration in sam.gov, which is actually a federal system that is required for federally funded awards. We do recommend that both of these systems, just to let you know, are free systems to get registered in, but that does take some time to complete. So we ask you to kind of get that completed prior to the application deadline. If you have any questions concerning sam.gov, which a lot of people will sometimes have those questions, you can go ahead and call me and we can discuss those with you as well. You also must comply with national policies and regulations according to the award. So let's talk about the engagement requirements. There are 4 requirements for an engagement to be eligible to apply to the program. First, you must present a professional performing artist in the fine arts of dance, music, or theater. Arts Midwest generally does not support commercial acts. For the purposes of the program, a professional artist receives a significant portion of their annual income from artistic activities and has a record of tour readiness as evidenced in regional, national, or international experience. The artist may be from anywhere in the world, but must not reside within the state of Ohio. Minimum contracted fee for the artist must be $2,500 or more. While an application for an artist performing at a festival qualifies, an application encompassing many separate artists as part of a festival does not qualify. Guest artists that are part of an applicant's own performance, concert, or production does not qualify. For example, in the case of a guest conductor for an orchestra or symphony, or a guest choreographer with local dancers. You must program at least one public performance that is open and promoted to the general public. You must include at least one community engagement activity to be conducted by the artist, staff, or a qualified expert. Activities enhance the audience's understanding and appreciation of the artist's work. It fosters exchanges between artists and communities and enriches the audience's experience. We ask that this activity be a minimum of 30 minutes in length. We have a very broad definition of what qualifies, from anything from a post-performance discussion with artists to workshops with local youth. Performances that are specifically targeted to a certain audience, for example, K through 12 students or seniors 65 or older, qualify as a community engagement activity and not a public performance. These activities do not need to be open to the general public. You must ensure the participation of an underserved audience, either through the public performance or the community engagement activity. The audience must be composed of people whose access to the performing arts is limited by one or more of these factors: economic conditions, ethnic background, disability, age, such as youth 18 or under, or seniors 65 or older, or have your organization based in a underserved geographic location. We use census information to determine that based on non-metropolitan statistical area, which is used through the determination of county information. These are the 4 components that you need in order to apply to the Arts Midwest Touring Fund. The next level, in addition to this, we encourage applicants to feature what we call 1 or more STAR project components. As I said, this is encouraged, but it is not required. Your application may have those 4 components that I previously discussed. Application review will be based on artistic excellence and merit. If demand within the state of Ohio is higher than the funds that we have available for the state, support will be prioritized by the number of stars for which an application qualifies for. Now I will discuss the STAR projects, which are aligned to Arts Midwest's mission, values, and goals as an organization. You could engage a performing artist from the Midwest, including Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, North Dakota, South Dakota, or Wisconsin. Again, the artist must not, though, reside within the state of Ohio. Second, we have deepened participation with a community residency by planning a minimum of 5 community engagement activities in addition to the public performance. Schedule these activities to occur for a minimum of 2 days in the community. Next, we have provide access to a geographically underserved audience by either having your organization or a community engagement activity being located in a non-metropolitan statistical area as according to U.S. Census data. And last, is to engage a specific population in the public performance, the community engagement activity, or both. Populations include people with disabilities, veterans, tribal communities, adults or youth in the justice system, communities of shared heritage such as Hispanic, Swedish, or Somali. You must ensure and provide a letter from a partner organization to confirm their participation in the engagement. Now we get into the awards for the program. Support from Arts Midwest Touring Fund must be used to offset the artist's contracted fee and may not be used for any other purposes or costs. Generally, the grant will be 20% of the artist's contracted fee. Community residency star projects are generally a grant of 25% of the artist's contracted fee. All awards will be a minimum of $500, so that would again mean that the artist's contracted fee must be at least $2,500. Our maximum award for an application will be $4,000. All applicants will receive notification in mid-June about their application. If they are selected, the applicants will enter into a grant agreement with Arts Midwest after July 1st. So this was a little bit about some of our guidelines and eligibility requirements for the Touring Fund. Our application process itself is quite simple. We do not ask for a budget during the time of application. We ask for 2 narrative questions. One is to describe the artist, and second is to describe the underserved audience you will reach with the engagement. We also ask for a detailed look at the schedule that you have planned that would include public performance information and community engagement information. This application should, in theory, take you no more than 30 minutes to complete. It is a pretty simple online system. We do accept applications prior to April 25th, which is the deadline, but we will not review until that particular date and be back in touch with you until after that. I'm going to open up the floor now for any questions that you may have about the Arts Midwest Touring Fund.
Great. All right, I am launching the question box. We have one question. Can I apply for an artist from Ohio?
So again, you are an organization in Ohio, and we promote regional touring. So we encourage you to apply for an artist who resides from outside of the state of Ohio. So no, you cannot apply for an artist in the state of Ohio.
Great.
Do we have any other questions out there?
Yeah, we do. Hang on, I got to expand the box. To confirm, performances as part of a larger festival do not qualify as an engagement requirement. Is that correct?
If you are applying, you can apply for one of the artists you are contracting for during that festival, but you cannot apply for all of the artists in one application. So you will need to choose one of the artists that is part of your festival to apply for.
And can you repeat the 4 areas on the application, 4 areas that you mentioned?
We will ask general information about your organization, street address information. We will ask 2 narrative questions, one being the artist description of the artist, and second will be the description of an your underserved audience. The third component is what we call an engagement schedule, which you will detail out for us the activities that will be taking place. Those are
all the questions I have at this time.
I should, one thing I should add before I kind of hand it over to Brian is at the time of the application, you do not need to have a fully executed contract with the artist. You may have a correspondence going between you and the artist looking at the details of the engagement, such as the month that it might be occurring, along with the fee that you're negotiating. We do not ask for a complete, fully executed contract between you and the artist at the time of the application. So just to let you know, that does not have to be fully solidified. Great. Well, I'm going to hand it over to Brian to talk more about the Arts Midwest Conference.
Yeah, so feel free to type in those questions. We'll have more Q&A here in a few minutes.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Brian Hallis. Thank you to both Christy and Christy for the excellent setup today, and thank you to everyone for logging in and being a part of this. I really appreciate the opportunity today to talk about the Arts Midwest Conference, and we are so grateful to have such incredible partners and colleagues at the Ohio Arts Council, especially this year as we're working on plans for the 2017 conference in Columbus. The Arts Midwest Conference is an annual booking and education conference for the Midwest performing arts touring industry. Today, I want to take some time to go through what the conference is all about, who attends, what happens there, how it's planned, and then try to answer as many of your questions as possible at the end. So our conference is all about connecting performing artists, managers, agents with venues and performing arts presenters. Those artists include touring theater companies, dance ensembles, music groups of all types, youth and family-oriented performers, and a lot more. And the presenters come from colleges, universities, performing arts centers of all shapes and sizes. Much of what the Midwest, or what audiences in the Midwest see on their stages in future years is determined at our conference. And whether that starts as a conversation in a booth or in an exhibit hall, or if it starts by seeing a performance at the conference. Our conference is the largest of 3 regional performing arts conferences. Our friends at Western Arts Alliance take the states to our west, and the states to our east are served by South Arts and the Performing Arts Exchange. So this map differs from what Christy showed earlier because the Arts Midwest Conference serves the combined 15-state region of Arts Midwest and Mid-America Arts Alliance. And as I mentioned, this year we're bringing the conference to Columbus, August 28th through the 31st. So make sure those dates are marked, even if you're just thinking about attending at this point. So who comes to this thing? Roughly half of our attendees represent the presenting organizations. And then the other half are exhibitors. So those we are the managers, agents, and self-represented artists. This makes for a really healthy 50-50 split between the two groups and balances those buyers to the sellers. We do also welcome performing arts professionals from service organizations, state arts agencies, and local arts administrators. I'll mention here that we do get quite a few folks each year who work for a local arts organization to the city where we are, and they'll participate in our pre-conference in-depth seminars, for example, even if they're not registered for the full conference. So more on that later. In terms of who attends, last year in Milwaukee, we broke our record and saw our highest attendance of all time. That record, interestingly, was previously held by the 2002 conference in Columbus. So excited to be back for that. The 300 plus presenters who attend come from all of our 15 states. But as we move the conference to different parts of our region each year, the number coming from each state really does tend to change. And that's a big part of why we change locations each year. So we're definitely hoping and expecting to see an uptick among Ohio folks in nearby states this year. The exhibitors here, they come from across the U.S. and beyond. A large number do come from cities like New York, LA, Chicago, Nashville, but it's not exclusively those cities or even just the East and West Coast. We do get managers, agents, artists from all around. In terms of who these artists are or who these exhibitors are, in terms of discipline and genre, we don't set any limitation on that, whether, what type of discipline. So we're not strictly a dance conference or strictly a music conference. We have a pretty big umbrella for the performing arts. What's most important, though, is that any artist or manager coming to our conference trying to seek visibility really needs to be able to demonstrate a readiness to tour, that they need to be at a point in their career where making the investment in the conference makes sense for them. So that's kind of a case-by-case situation, of course, but that's sort of the more important thing about whether or not you're an artist who's going to find success at our conference. So what happens during the 4-day conference? We'll get into some of that about the exhibitors a little more, but for now, let's go through all of the ways that attendees do connect at the conference, starting with our exhibit hall. So our exhibit hall we call the marketplace, and we like to say that it's where the business behind the performing arts industry happens. And for most of our attendees, it's really the heart of the conference. Last year, there were more than 10,000 artists and ensembles represented in the hall. We hear a lot that presenters will try to maximize their time at the conference by preparing in advance and scheduling meetings with exhibitors who are of interest to them. This requires doing some research before the conference using an attendee list that's shared with everyone who registers. And exhibitors, though, also receive this information. So if you're a presenter coming to the conference, you can expect that you'll receive emails from exhibitors wanting to connect with you or make a meeting in advance. Another important piece of advice we always try to give, though, is to not overschedule yourself while you're at the conference. It's really crucial that you carve out the time and the energy to discover something new. You never know who you're going to meet in the hallway, or if you'll see a performance that completely surprises you and defies your expectations. So the conference, and on top of all that, is also an important convening point for statewide and regional presenter networks. These groups will hold membership meetings, block booking meetings during the conference. OAPN, the Ohio Presenters Network, has had a really active and strong presence at our conference throughout the years. So we expect that to be the case this year, but it's definitely valuable to those presenter networks to have a convening point at the conference. Similarly, a lot of service organizations will offer meetings or consultations to share funding opportunities or programming opportunities with constituents. Live performances or showcases at the conference offer an unparalleled way to preview new work or gain exposure for an artist. Each spring, we convene a panel that reviews 200 applications from artists and managers, and that panel selects 17 artists and ensembles who go on to perform as a part of the Spotlight Showcases. These Spotlight Showcases include 15-minute fully produced performances. So this is a really key way to see work or perform work during the conference. And we're excited to present those showcases this year at the Davidson Theater in Columbus. In addition to those jury Spotlight Showcases, there are also more than 250 independently produced performances at the conference hotel, and around the city. So if you're a presenter, I can't recommend enough that you would attend every one of the 17 Spotlight Showcases. And then you're going to want to come up with sort of a game plan for tackling the independent showcases, because you're going to need to prioritize. There's no way, unfortunately, to see everything. And then again, make sure you save some time to discover something new. For exhibitors, since I know there's a few artists on the call, we do offer a handful of rooms at the conference hotel that the people rent out and produce these independent showcases. But the best bet, especially if you're new to the conference, is to participate in a group showcase. That's where a group of artists come together and sort of share the costs and expense of making these performances happen. Presenting performances in hotel ballrooms under a constricted time frame is really, really tough. It's not the ideal performance setting for anyone. So, but at the same time, it is something that I think people have grown used to and know how to navigate. So if you're coming into this new, I'd recommend that you resist the temptation during your first year to showcase, and instead focus your first year on meeting as many people as possible and going to as many showcases as possible. So you get a full feel for how it works and how you can, sort of increase your involvement in future years. So another way that the conference serves the field is through professional development. We offer programming that really tries to actively address the current trends and issues that are immediately relevant to our attendees. This starts with our pre-conference in-depth seminars. In past, these seminars have been a deep dive into a particular topic like contracting and negotiation, social media, venue safety, as well as some broader trend and issue-oriented sessions. For example, last year we had a full day on engaging diverse communities. So like I mentioned, these are opportunities that we encourage all people registered for the conference to participate in and add on, but it's actually open to anyone, even if you're not able to come to the full conference. So for this year, nothing has been formally announced yet, but I can tell you now that this year we're working with a service organization called Women of Color in the Arts to offer a Women's Leadership Forum. Another seminar this year is going to be all about the basics, or 101, of presenting and touring. And the third session is going to be focused on another Arts Midwest program here called Creating Connections. So stay tuned for updates about those. Then each day of the conference, attendees can choose from a big mix of workshops, discussions, roundtables, panels. These sessions cover a broad range of topics, and they cater to all levels of experience or expertise. I'll point out a couple of popular formats that we're planning to use again this year. Rise and Shine is similar to Ignite, if you've heard of that, or the Pacha format. These are a collection of 5-minute talks. It's an opportunity to hear about work that others are doing. We call that Rise and Shine. Another format is the debate. So last year was a big hit that we tackled some big topics, but confined it to a formal debate format, and it really allowed us to explore some contrasting viewpoints. And finally, for professional development, our keynote speaker and featured speaker each year offer a platform for leaders in our field to share an inspiring and unifying message. Last year, we welcomed Oscar Eustace from the Public Theater and Dasha Kelly, who was a spoken word artist in Milwaukee. So we're excited to be announcing this year's speakers in the coming weeks. So who plans all of this? It's a great team here working on the conference. We benefit from being a part of an organization, Arts Midwest, that's doing all kinds of things, including the Touring Fund, which you heard about, but also a lot of other really vibrant programs. But we look beyond ourselves a lot in how the conference comes together and work with a lot of different groups so that we really are serving the field and addressing the reality of the field as it stands right now. So in the fall, we announced that Janet Herman Barlow and Teresa Holden would serve as our conference co-chairs. Janet and Teresa joined a group from Arts Midwest in December for a site visit to Columbus, and we toured venues and really dug into our goals and ideas for programming. During that trip, we met with a group of 20 local colleagues who represent a wide range of arts organizations in the greater Columbus area. And last month, our Professional Development Committee held its first planning meeting. So we do those by conference call, and it's a group of 18 arts professionals this year who review all of the proposals that come to us for sessions and workshops, and really focus in on guiding the direction of our programming and help us prioritize so that we really are offering something that's going to be meaningful and valuable to everyone who comes. Next month, we host our Spotlight Showcase panel, and that's a group of 6 colleagues who review all of the applications and select those 17 artists and ensembles. So before diving into this final section, I really want to emphasize something here. There is a strong and welcoming and inclusive culture at our conference. In some ways, it feels like a big old family, I think, and that's a really appealing thing. But I say this because I want to point out that it does not mean that a newcomer coming into this is going to feel like an outsider. This is something that Arts Midwest really cares about, but frankly, we can't take all of the credit for it. I think that it's actually a testament to the collaborative and inclusive nature of the performing arts industry, and especially the performing arts industry here in the Midwest. So I think a huge reason to invest in and attend the conference, whether you're new or not, is for the opportunities to network and make new connections and be a part of this community. I think that you'll find that people are always eager to meet someone new at our conference. You know, if it's in the elevators at the hotel, in the exhibit hall, at one of our events, at one of the parties. It's something that has really struck me coming on board here a few years ago about the strong culture around that. We do have a program, though, that's specifically for new colleagues. So if you're a first-timer, you can sign up and be assigned a mentor in advance of the conference. These mentors are long-time conference attendees who can answer questions prior to you arriving. And the first day of the conference, the new colleague orientation is a big gathering of everybody, mentors and new attendees. And it's a really dynamic and exciting way to kick off the conference, you know, and have it start with that spirit of meeting somebody new and welcoming in newcomers. So as a new colleague, you'll meet your mentor in person, but you'll also meet a ton of other new attendees, other people who you can hopefully stay in touch with throughout the conference, and then, you know, check in with at different points. So attendees have lots of opportunities to connect during our conference, especially during our daytime all-conference events. We have a luncheon with a sponsored performance. The keynote address brings everyone together. And then on the last day, there's a brunch. And that's where the featured speaker gives the presentation, and then there's another sponsored performance. And of course, we have some parties. At the opening party, right when everyone arrives, you know, we kind of get that everyone is there at that point, primarily to eat, reconnect with friends, or get a feel for what this is going to be all about. So it's an opportunity, you know, at the same time to get out of the conference hotel and go somewhere in the host city and experience something fun and new before diving into all of the work of the week. We're finalizing our plans this year to host the opening party at the Columbus Museum of Art, which I think is going to be a great spot for us. And then by the end of the 4 days, we make it to the closing party, and it's a lot more about picking up your feet, relaxing, and enjoying some time together before everyone goes home. So we're working on our plans for the closing party this year at Huntington Park, and I think it's going to be a really fun way for attendees to cap it all off, and there's going to even be an option where you can get a really inexpensive ticket and stay on and watch the ball game there with colleagues. So that kind of covers the key areas of the conference. Here's the website, with everything we're talking about today. That's of course a great resource. One thing at the conference, if you go there now, you're going to see some of the information for 2017 being posted, but a lot of this gets announced in the coming weeks and months. So I really encourage you to sign up for the email list if you're not already. And you can find that easily by going here. And that's where you're going to make sure to get updates about registration opening or deadlines before prices might increase, all of that stuff. So that covers it for me. I'd love to hear any questions that you all have.
I'll just type in and add one thing about the conferences. There are scholarships available to help you, because I know we've got a number of new people who've not attended the conference. So there are scholarships available, just not a few, not a ton of them, but Arts Midwest does have some of those available, so don't forget to look into that opportunity as well. And I know, Christy, you mentioned OAC also would have some opportunities to help out with professional development.
Yeah, I would add to that as well. Our next capacity building grant deadline is June 1st, and we will cover registration and travel costs for professional development conferences. So if you're interested in that, give Jim or Brianna a call to walk you through that process. But the timing is perfect with the June 1st deadline coming up.
So there's two kind of funding opportunities to hopefully help you come and join us while we're in Columbus, right there in your state.
Yeah.
Great.
I have another question for you, Brian. Is the conference open to college students?
It is, yes, that's a great question. We do have a student price that's really deeply discounted and accessible for students. What happens is, how we approach students at the conference is that you're there to experience it and sort of observe full on. There's not a separate track for students. So that it's actually a way that you can register and be in the exhibit hall, meet people, go to all of the events. As a part of that deeply discounted rate, there's one volunteer requirement, but it's actually pretty small compared to some other conferences because we want people out there engaging with the conference.
Great. Another one for you as well, Brian. Is there a certain day that is more targeted toward youth or family programming among the showcases?
There's not. Yeah, we don't designate specific days to certain genres or disciplines. So generally, we encourage people, if they're going to come to the conference, they try to come to the whole thing and experience it from beginning to end. Because, you know, with those spotlight showcases, for example, it's really over 2 nights, so the 17 artists are back to back. And we encourage everyone to come for all of it.
Great. Wonderful. All right, back to you, Christy. There's some more questions about the touring fund, as I knew there would be, right? Would an artist from Washington meet the requirements?
Yes, so any artist that would reside outside of the state of Ohio and throughout the United States or the world is eligible.
Great. All right, here's the next one. This one's a little long. I'll break it down for you. So the application is due April 25th. Can you tell the group again the time frame for the performance / the contract needs to be completed by? Kind of maybe go over those dates, and if you want to even pull that slide up again. Then it goes on to ask, what's the funding period, and if I'm looking to contract an artist for an event in November of 2017, is this the funding cycle to apply?
Okay, so let me just I'll go through some key dates to start off at the beginning. So we have application deadline on April 25th. That particular date, we do not ask that there be a fully executed contract with the artist at that time. What we do then is to support any engagement that's taking place between July 1st of 2017 and June 30th of 2018. So it's an annual cycle. That means your November 2017 engagement would qualify. We then, after April, after we review those applications, we will be back in touch with you in mid-June to let you know if we've allocated dollars to your organization. Following June, it doesn't become an official grant until July, at which time we will then issue a grant agreement if you've been selected to receive funding. Does that help?
Great.
Any more questions around dates, let me know.
Okay. Another question, can this grant be paired with an OAC grant, with this grant providing some of the matching funds for an OAC grant?
If the OAC grant is specifically state dollars and not federal dollars, then it could, you could use OAC money and come to us for funding. So what you would need to check with OAC is if that particular grant source that they have is through their federal source or their state source.
Yeah, so check with your program coordinators, Brianna, Dance, or Jim Sakosh. They can help you clarify that if you want to do both.
So just to clarify that, basically federal requirements are that you cannot receive overlapping federal funds, so we just try not to make that a mix in your project.
Yep. And a follow-up question to that, are the funds provided by the Touring Grant Fund used only to offset the touring artist fees?
Correct. It is only used to offset the artist's contracted fee that is specified in that contract.
Great. And I have confirmation that your explanation of the timeline and the dates was clear.
Great.
All right. I don't see any more questions, but feel free to type any in if you have them.
And we do have all of, I kind of did a quick broad stroke kind of through those eligibility for the organization and project engagement requirements. But all of that is fully fleshed out on our website currently, along with the application is all there as well. And I'd be more than happy to discuss any engagement that you have coming up if you have further questions and what it might qualify for. I would encourage, I know we have a number of new people that may have not received funding from the Touring Fund. I would highly encourage you to apply. This particular program, we generally are able to fund all of the applications we see in our hands. So we are able to give you something. So it's one of the greatest granting programs that way. And so get an application in. Like I said, it's a very simple process. And I am here to assist you and guide you in that process as well.
Yeah, that is really awesome. It's not very often that you hear a funder say that. We'll give you something.
So give us the demand. We're looking for some demand in Ohio right now.
Awesome. All right. I don't see any further questions. Oh, wait. I do have one. Can you repeat the specific name of the fund? Someone joined us late and just missed the specific name of the fund.
It's the Arts Midwest Touring Fund. More information can be found on artsmidwest.org underneath our programs, where you will also find the Arts Midwest Conference.
Great. And I know that Christy and Brian are happy to answer any of your questions, follow-up phone calls, and emails. They will welcome. I will share with them, those of you who were on the call today, so they may even reach out and see if they can help you in some way. Just a reminder, you'll get a survey in your inbox shortly after the session today, so please give us a few minutes so we can make this presentation better on all fronts. I really want to thank Brian and Christy for joining us today and putting this together. This is really helpful and really great information. So thank you all for joining us.
Well, thank you, everyone. On behalf of Arts Midwest, we thank you for being on the call today, and we are always happy to work with all of you constituents in Ohio.
Yes, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Great. Have a terrific day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.